The Redemption Inquiry by Michael Diamond. Part 4. Beasts of the Apocalypse. Chapter 20. The Severed Boot. A little jog backward on the footpath of time to get a bead on the climate disaster. Early days for the chief archivist of the hackpack, Leonardo Pacioli, a.k.a. Nard the Seer. We're given the lowdown by the redeemed soul of Nard's loving pater. It's curious how people are spooked by the uncanny. So thinks my brilliant son. In one of Leonardo's spelunking expeditions into old texts, he finds an early paper of Sigmund Freud's, in which the fusty professor addresses the occult with crisp officiousness. Freud, a psychic revolutionary in his day, gradually took upon himself a rigid and censorial attitude within his own cadre of intellectuals, and on certain topics completely bricked himself in with prejudices and presumptions. You can see it as he opines upon uncanny phenomena, that he assumes unexamined primacy for his own weird experiences and gives short shrift to the weird as it is visited upon others. A bit odd for a scientist and explorer of the human psyche. The primo subjective scientific endeavor. He makes no bones about the fact that he believes in the predictive power of dreams. Why? Because he himself had experienced that form of nevuah, prophecy, in dreams. He dismisses out of hand the possibility of knowledge at a distance because he, the great Herr Professor Dr. Freud, has never had that particular vision. Priggishness or fear of marginalization, or both. It doesn't matter. It's pretty damn discouraging to Leonardo to discover that one of his heroes falls so short of the mark in the imagination department. He cannot fathom how such a formidable intellect could be so closed to the world that lies just beyond our five material senses. Leonardo, on the other hand, feels how keen is his life's dependence upon the fact that he, Leonardo Pacioli, is an adept, a savant of remote viewing. He is an autodidact, and hasn't yet let us, his family, in on the secret. The redemption outs all secrets. As the family Pacioli sits on his mother's blanket of simsilk brocade, one of the few family heirlooms Vera has managed to stow away for our journey, Leonardo basks in the artfulness of the repast his sainted mother had foraged, and in the ingenuity of his beloved father, yours truly, in preparing for life in the wilderness. How sweet! We, his parents, are his heroes. Leonardo also knows we are about to be so-called rescued by B-bots, closing in on us from a location roughly 250 kilometers to the east. There is nowhere to go from here. The Italian boot has been cut off at its ruffled calf. The Po Valley, an uninhabitable swamp, drenched by recurrent flood waters cascading in from the Adriatic. And to the west, desert, the once luxurious Piedmont region, now subject to massive flash fires, no longer remotely resembles the former breadbasket of Italy. The entire boot hangs on by a thread, the majority of its inhabitants either dead or evacuated to Leviathan. A parade of natural disasters and pandemics has transformed the whole of Italy into an uninhabitable waste, except for the alpine retreat to which our family clings. Leonardo hesitates. I know now that he needs to tell us that the end of our journey is at hand. I can see, looking back from the redemption, that what a quandary he is in. His sister, Flora, 10 years his junior, through the mercy of childish obliviousness, squeals with unbridled delight every time she finds another cluster of purple lupines growing under the stunted trees. Bittersweet. Leonardo cherishes these final moments of natural bliss with an unnatural and concentrated deliberateness. A poet by nature, He's training himself in the science of observation. And I, Leonardo's father, Luca Pacioli, stand at the edge of a rocky carapace, pointing my astrolabe skyward. In my starched white shirt and decidedly retro handlebar mustache, I'm afraid I am quite self-conscious as I cut the figure of an 1890s boxer, vain and young. We all do what we have to do to preserve some sense of who we were as people, so small in the face of the harsh natural reality. I confess that I once stole a glance at my sweet Leonardo's journal, desperate to know how his delicate psyche was faring amidst the ravages of life on the run. What I see staggers me, an intelligence so beautiful it crowns every word he chooses. Listen. On July 10th, in the dark, there is no accommodation, not even a whisper of light. This is when attention training pays off, the world of dreamless sleep. Forget everything you know. Let go of personal desire. This is impersonal desire. You have entered the black screen, crackling pluripotential, the world of genres. The level of trust required to navigate more than anything that's ever been asked of you, the realm of archangelic strength. July 11. I don't know that I will find a home here. Just a temporary place to stay, a jumping-off point, a gentle tugging in every direction. I have already blessed all of these directions. There is a finer and finer sense of the purposeful shifting of direction. Now here, now there, the order of the invisible crystal, every vertex a point of inflection, every surface the leaping of my heart. July 12. I don't know about edges. I'm not sure they make sense here. Edges belong in the realm of the lesser angels. This is the dwelling place of Little Wind and Big Fly. They and all the other guides whisper every point of spiritual topography. Stay on point only long enough to pivot toward the next. There is no narrative here. The density of this place is greater than that of the rational numbers. There will be no mapping. Is it okay to grieve the loss of maps? July 13. Okay then. Move on. Move on or sink. There is a funny kind of mathematics at work here. The density, the property that allows one to stay afloat, depends directly upon acceleration. The simplest movement to assure continuous acceleration is to turn, to spin about a central axis. I'm not sure about wobbling. That might be fun. That might be inevitable. Thank God there are no heavenly bodies here. They can be so annoying, so disturbing, so self-centered, so limiting. I suspect I may be one. July 14. Bastille Day. July 15. The allure of the created world, the manufactured world. It will be the death of me. I am low-hanging fruit. I hear my life calling me in another direction, a cool breeze on my face and the warm sun on my back. This journey may be undertaken only in extraordinary vessels. The me that is the breath billows out the sails. I know I will be overwhelmed. I know the rudder will be stripped from my hand, and in spite of the terror that I feel lighting up every cell of my body, I know I will wash up in a good place, the place where the seeds of all things are planted. July 16. I am far from there right now, and grow weary of bumping around in the dark. It's the same dark from the perspective of descent. I need to get to the seeds of the senses, beyond architecture, beyond assembly instructions, beyond finished products. I want to wrap my life in the scintillating blanket of every living seed that ever was, is, or shall be. I want to be crisscrossed by layered emanations, so many infinitesimal spotlights piercing the night sky. This is my life, and it does not belong to me. A spotlight has pierced my heart. I am full of holes, bleeding light in every direction. All that holds me together is that which skewers me. You see, my major logistical regret is not having figured out the final tweak for the cloaking we so badly needed to render ourselves invisible to the AIs. I know that my amateur tech skills are no match for the AIs, but I do everything in my power to buy my family a little more time before capture. I have no illusion that anyone in the family is not at some level aware of our predicament, even little Flora in her oblivious state of bliss. Yet I try to instill in them a sense of adventure, a sense of the poetic. Every night before bed, I gather the four of us around a lightless hollow fire and recite from memory the entire first canto of Dante's Quattrocento masterpiece, Divina Commedia. Nel mezzo del cammin di nostra vita mi ritrovai per una selva oscura, cela dritta vieres marita. In the middle of our life's journey, I found myself in a dark wood because the straight path was lost. On and on I encanted. Dark as it was, it spoke to them of the possibility of human wisdom in the person of the poet Virgil, as a guide through the terror of this life. I want to impart a rugged, optimistic message to my family. Vera loves me for it. Even now, looking back from the redemption, it is a treasured memory of a desperate time. The children memorized the entire verse, sweetly imitating my every idiosyncrasy of tone and vocal mannerism. The last night on the mountain, Leonardo dreams, himself, as he tells me many years later, an older soul, a doctor in the early 21st century, an alienist ruminating upon the particular heartbreak of a lost one. From the other side, the undifferentiated, the side we slide into as evening falls and the stars blink out one by one. It's the end of the chessboard, where pawns become queens. It is the roundabout, the hub. I smile, but I am too much at peace to tell a joke. Won't you slip away with me, so that we are as one within the one? The complete poet, all healing, all embracing, no gaps, plenum. Why choose? How choose? What chooses, and what is chosen? A siren whines from a distance. I have told that story several times this week. There must be a reason. A man who claims that he is an archangel, that he has seen the Ark of the Covenant, the Holy Aaron. I ask him what it was like, and he says it was the most exquisite pain he had ever experienced. Pain? I ask. He said it was beautiful, in his rambling way. Have you never experienced such beauty that it hurts? The greatest pain there is. Is that why he turns to drink? The price of being lashed to the mast, ears unplugged. How much more for a calabinarial tempest vision than for a siren song? The persistence of images upon the retina is nothing compared to those in the mind, the soul. Every day my young friend sits lashed to the chair in the middle of the wilderness of his life's journey, silently screaming his ecstatic pain. The beauty and the horror are one. I most ardently wish him the ultimate blessing of the high priest. May his countenance toward you, may he turn. Yet may you know peace. Zzzt! Leonardo awakes, swatting the air. He is sleep-drunk and confused, and flashes on the time that he and I camped together in the mosquito-infested Po swamp, the ghost of a moribund ecosystem. Even among the other forestieros, the Italian partners of a gathering, who remain on the land long after most Italians have been gathered to Leviathan. Leonardo and I are on the fringe, extreme trekkers. Inoculated against malaria, The two of us enjoy unencumbered the beauty of the Po swamp, the mists that swirl through the cypress trees and the mangroves that keep the residual swamp from being washed away by the storm surges. Our aerobarca scuds the surface of the marsh to nose around one of our favorite spots, the submerged villas, an exotic tourist destination among the forestieros. These are the former residences of the notables of Vicenza, designated by the immortal architect of the Italian Renaissance, born Andrea di Pietro della Gondola, a 16th century Padovan, the genius of Padua, dubbed Palladio by his first patron, a humanist, poet, and scholar, a nod to Pallas Athena, protector of wily Odysseus. The Venetians, in their endless trade wars with the Ottomans, flaunt their independence from the Muslim Empire as they traipse the rich farmlands of the Po Valley. Of course, the gentlemen farmers require country residences to reflect their elevated station in Venetian society. Hence, a series of villas and palazzos, sprung from the fevered brow of Palladio, dot the countryside like so many monuments to the vanity of Veneto. The very models for all such pride projects. Palladio's clones populate the haunts of Western culture, from the British Isles to the capital of the New World's first democracy. Immortal beauties beckon from beneath the Po's floodwaters, their ornate rooftops convenient hitching posts for the aerobarco. As we tie up the decayed figurines that encircle the roof of the Palazzo Chiricati, we mug and clown uninvited guests of the once noble occupants. The miniature soldiers teeter just above the waterline, so many water-walking yogis. Always Leonardo laughs and apes my gestures toward the formerly stately figures. We tip our helmets and bow from the waist. "Oh, grazie, signore, molto gentile." The arm of the misshapen remains of a statue kindly holds our bowline. Ersatz classical military figurines, a must-have tchotchke for the well-housed bourgeois, now unrecognizable in the dissolution wrought by the surge of swamp water, wind, and rain. Oh, the dreadful wind and rain. The whole family startles awake to a chorus of creepy little voices. "You are being rescued by your friends at Ziscorp. We have found you. You have nothing to fear. A bee-bot is on its way to take you home." A swarm of micro-drones swirl around the Familia Pacioli and snags onto our clothing like ticks on a dog. Right off I recognize the technology from the glorious time I won the Best in Show at the 200th anniversary of Robotica Milan 2207. Not to brag, but I was a badass amateur roboticist, pretty good for an academic geometrician. These sophisticated ROS-10 devices are built to detect and attach to the artificial intellifibers worn by all humans as mandated by the sumptuary laws of the AI overlords. For our protection. Fascinated, I pluck one of the little insectoids from Flora's Intella t-shirt as she blinks herself awake. Its 4D printed exoskeleton is indistinguishable from the elegant dragonflies. As I snap out of my robotics reverie, I declaim to my terrified family, "It's culo nudo time." They know exactly what to do. A hallowed Pacioli family tradition. Without hesitation, we strip off all our clothing and run wild beasts to the six directions, shrieking, "Culo nudo, culo nudo." Nothing like a little levity to release the grip of gravity. We laugh ourselves to tears. The Familia Pacioli leaves behind the malevolent buzz of drone-infested clothing and grabs our fab kits to make for higher ground. No, we will not be wrangled like so many errant cattle, only because of our lack of robotic perfection. The AIs have at last rendered their final judgment. Free-range humans are not to be trusted. Round them up. Interlude. Partitions. Internment of Japanese Americans and other civilian assembly centers. Arcadia, California, Santa Anita Racetrack Stables. Fresno, California, Fresno Fairgrounds Racetrack Stables. Marysville, Arboga, California, Migrant Workers Camp. Mayer, Arizona, Civilian Conservation Corps Camp. Mercer, California, County Fairgrounds. 194 Eleanor Roosevelt at Gila River Relocation Center, April 23rd. 3 Owens Valley, California, Parker Dam, Arizona, Pinedale, California, Pinedale Assembly Center Warehouses, Pomona, California, Los Angeles County Fairgrounds Racetrack Stables. Portland, Oregon, Pacific International Livestock Exposition, including 3,800 housed in the main pavilion building. Puyallup, Washington, Fairgrounds Racetrack Stables, informally known as Camp Harmony. Sacramento, California, Camp Kohler, site of present-day Wallaga Park, Migrant Workers Camp. Salinas, California, Fairground Racetrack Stables. San Bruno, California, Tanforan Racetrack Stables. Stockton, California, San Joaquin County Fairgrounds Racetrack Stables. Tulare, California, Fairgrounds Racetrack Stables. Turlock, California, Stanislaus County Fairgrounds. Woodland, California Relocation Centers. Gila River War Relocation Center, Arizona. Granada War Relocation Center, Colorado, a.k.a. Amache. Heart Mountain War Relocation Center, Wyoming. Jerome War Relocation Center, Arkansas. Manzanar War Relocation Center, California. Minidoka War Relocation Center, Idaho. Poston War Relocation Center, Arizona. Rower War Relocation Center, Arkansas. Topaz War Relocation Center, Utah. Tule Lake War Relocation Center, California Justice Department detention camps. These camps often held German Americans and Italian American detainees, in addition to Japanese Americans. Crystal City, Texas, Fort Lincoln Internment Camp. Fort Missoula, Montana. Fort Stanton, New Mexico. Kennedy, Texas. Cusca, Idaho. Santa Fe, New Mexico. Seagoville, Texas. Forest Park, Georgia. Citizen isolation centers. The citizen isolation centers were for those considered to be problem inmates. Leop, Arizona, Moab, Utah, a.k.a. Dalton Wells, Fort Stanton, New Mexico, a.k.a. Old Baton Ranch. Federal Bureau of Prisons. Detainees convicted of crimes, usually draft resistance, were sent to these sites, mostly federal prisons. Catalina, Arizona. Fort Leavenworth, Kansas, and McNeil Island, Washington, U.S. Army facilities. These camps often held German and Italian detainees, in addition to Japanese Americans. Fort McDowell, Angel Island, California, Camp Landing. Florida, Camp Forest. Tennessee, Camp Livingston. Louisiana, Camp Lordsburg. New Mexico, Camp McCoy. Wisconsin, Florence. Arizona, Fort Bliss. New Mexico and Texas, Fort Howard. Maryland, Fort Lewis. Washington, Fort Meade. Maryland, Fort Richardson. Alaska, Fort Sam. Houston, Texas, Fort Sill. Oklahoma, Griffith Park. California, Honolulu Internment Camp. Hawaii, Sand Island, Hawaii. Stringtown, Oklahoma Immigration and Naturalization Service facilities. These immigration detention stations held roughly 5,500 men arrested immediately after Pearl Harbor, in addition to several thousand German and Italian detainees, and served as processing camps from which the men were transferred to DOJ or Army camps. East Boston Immigration Station, Ellis Island. Cincinnati, Ohio. San Pedro, Los Angeles. Seattle, Washington. Sharp Park, California. Tuna Canyon, Los Angeles. As recorded by Wikibot. End of interlude. Naked and breathless, under the breezy cover of stunted thorn trees, Vera and I contemplate the fate of our family. Nightfall is only a few hours away. The temperature will take a precipitous drop. Our nakedness is no longer amusing. In fact, it is pretty unpleasant for a bare bodkin seated upon cold rocks. True, the ambient temperature is not cold enough to sustain the long-since departed glaciers. With the disappearance of the ice mass, the search for water at high altitude is all but bootless, and by nightfall the chill air makes unprotected sleep dubious at best. We won't print any more fab garb since the AIs have modified the software for every design to include tracking IntelliFibers. Vera and I look at each other and in unison pronounce, "Merde." That's when we hear an improbable bleat from within the nearby brace of thorn trees. Our excitement pocketed, my boy and I slither with the utmost stealth in the direction of the sound. At a copse of misshapen dwarf trees, I motion Leonardo to sidle up next to me and see what I see. There it stands, an immense male alpine ibex, its scimitar horns trapped by the thorny fingers of a collusion of trees. The more it struggles, the deeper snag the thorns. Hushed, I open my fab kit, pull up my trank gun, schematics, and wait. The portable synthbot hums at the mystified creature. Seconds seem like minutes. As the machine winds down, I shut it off pronto. Don't want the signal to attract any more of Ziscorp's minions. Et voila! A stun gun! Hand to hand, I press the freshly printed device into my son's eager paw and nod toward the beast. Leonardo murmurs his thanks to the Creator, apologies to the frightened creature, then lets rip an electric sting that renders the goat unconscious. The struggle ends. When we disentangle the slumbering beast and haul it back to Vera, she clucks with delight. Visions of sartorial improvisation dance in her sharp blue eyes. Faster than you can say, "Ziz knows where you is," the sleeping ibex is shorn and covered in the pile of pine needles. Once it stirs, I send Flora with the sleepy goat to dress it in our IntelliDuds. She was an animal whisperer from early toddlerhood and has no trouble leading the docile beast a short way down the mountain. I instruct her to clothe the creature, then shoo it further down the mountain to draw off the AIs and tear like hell back to us. The lumbering ibex, our emissary to Azazel, Leonardo's name for the AI monsters, the demons that bear away sin. The heirloom works its silent magic under Vera's supple touch, materialize 4 goat's wool caftans. To ensure that her family be shod, Vera the forager pokes around until she uncovers the best source of shoeing material from right beneath our feet. The roots of the thorn trees are pliant as natural rubber. With a bit of steam, Vera coaxes them around each of our 4 sets of feet. The cross pieces deform in agreement with our soles, a fistful of moss for padding. A handsome crew of wanderers indeed. The Italiana Famiglia Pacioli. Clothed and shod, time to trek to higher ground. A habitable cave might be nice, but my heart sighs. I know that it's only a matter of time before we'll be rescued and dragged back to so-called civilization. After all, as adept as we are at orienteering and wilderness survival, we aren't wild, not of this place. All of us born and bred in the heart of the techno-beast, the decaying center of Western European culture. We aren't indigenous. We don't have the autochthonic chops. Leonardo's psychic skills are still undeveloped, a marvelous toy that he has insufficient time to unpack, and Flora has yet to realize her own uncanny powers. Vera and I both know damn well that no matter where we go and no matter how well we disguise our physical presence, the Ziscorp drones and behemoth beebots will track us. Our existential spoor. We've heard rumors that the indigenous tribes have the mojo to blend into the land, to become undetectable, no matter how their land is ravaged by meteorologic catastrophe. The catch is, it's a hell of a catch, that their people's health declines in sync with the deterioration of the land, a determinately mortal bond. But the Famiglia Pacioli, alas, has been civilized for centuries. Our famous ancestor wrangled math problems with the great Leonardo, the inventor after whom Vera and I named our dear son. Fra Luco Bartolomeo de Pacioli, the 15th century father of accounting and bookkeeping. One cool dude. He roomed with Leonardo da Vinci in Milan, consuming a smorgasbord of intellectual arcana. He taught maths to his fabled genius pal. Pacioli, an earlier incarnation of Howard Gardner, compiled a book of magic tricks and puzzles in which he revealed, among other things, that Leonardo was left-handed. Who knew? He did not, however, reveal that Leonardo's mother, out of wedlock, is a Russian Jewish servant in the Da Vinci household. Che scandalo! Rumor also has it that Leonardo and Luca are lovers. Equally damning, they are part of an occult fraternity that venerates John the Baptist, as the incarnation of the prophet Elijah, annunciator of the future Messiah. Hard to know which bit of demography would get them into more hot water with the church. The two friends draw inspiration from the work of the crypto-Jew Amadeo Mendes da Silva. While a hidden Jew, da Silva becomes a Franciscan friar and even a confessor to the Pope, a radical in high places. His incendiary work, Apocalypse Nova, deliberately deconstructs some of the basic tenets of Orthodox Catholicism. Little things like the divinity of Jesus and the virginity of Mary. His Hebrew language chops, let's hear it for philology, my brother-in-law, reveal to him the Church has erred in the translation of the Hebrew word for girl, making the unfortunate choice virgin. Zones! The man writes a series of sermones he attributes to John the Baptist that ape the style of the heinous debates staged by the Church between Christian and Jewish scholars in Paris in the 13th century, and in inquisitorial Spain as well. However, Amadeo's conclusions, a sort of philosophical wish fulfillment, were the 180 opposite of the rigged affairs that resulted in the burning of Jewish books and the multiple expulsions of the entire people. Beware the crypto-Jews. The Milanese court, where Luca and Leonardo hang out, is a hotbed of religious infighting and intrigue. Their fun is spoiled by the invasion of Milan by King Louis XII of France. Off to Venice and then back to Florence, the two pals part ways. Our family lore has it that when he marries, Luca institutes the tradition of keeping the name of his great friend alive in every generation of the Pacioli family. Leonardo, my son's namesake, paints some mind-blowing pieces while living in the Belvedere in the Vatican, whilst palling around with the likes of Raphael and Michelangelo. Leonardo's heterodox philosophy bleeds straight through the surface of his paintings from that heady time. His luminous last work, a sensuous depiction of John the Baptist as the Greek god Bacchus, is a dead giveaway on so many levels. Leonardo was sent from a distant elsewhere to set us free. His oddness earns him the accusation of necromancy. Forced to flee to France, he enters the service of King Francis I. Leonardo dies there in peace, surrounded by friends and admirers. No doubt, the man was one cool, eccentric genius, a 16th-century beatnik, generous even unto his death. Legends abound. Vasari tells us that just before his death, on May 2nd, 1519, at the age of 67, Leonardo sent for a priest to make his confession and to receive the Holy Sacrament. Not likely. In accordance with his will, 60 beggars followed his casket. Definite maybe. King Francis I had become a close friend. Vasari also records that the king held Leonardo's head in his arms as he died. History casts a dubious eye on that one. Vasari specifies that Leonardo made sure in his will that his principal disciple, his few students, and his serving woman were properly compensated. Probably so. The Pacioli family maths chops now resides in me, the namesake of my mathematician forebear, a lineage of outside geniuses skirting the law just beneath the radar. My hopes, however, are pinned on our dear Leonardo, the true cosmic avatar in our little family. But there is no hero in sight to save our skins, no guide through this last stretch of drear wood, no one to stand up to the implacable will of the AIs. Humanity, at last, has cooked its own goose. I fear this is the sordid end for the current incarnation of La Familia Pacioli, a vanishing window of time in which to give the children one last deep draught of nature, raw and beautiful, one last quaff of freedom before the dreaded re-entry protocol. Each night, after my recitativo of Dante, Leonardo sleeps and dreams of Virgil.